Face to Face today is focusing on a place that when you were young, you would have loved to come to. It's the International Trade Fair in Accra, La. It used to be called La, this area. Now they've changed the name to Chado. I don't know why, but yes. It is a place where people went to on occasions, where they went to celebrate. People came here just for sightseeing. People came here for excursion. But the trade fair has been silent for a while. So today on Face to Face, we're asking the question, what is the state of the trade fair? And we are doing that conversation with a person who superintends over the activities of the fair. My name is Omar Sanda, and you're welcome to Face on ChannelOne Television. So my guest on Face to Face today is the CEO of the Ghana International Trade Fair Center based in Accra, Dr. Agnes Edu. She's been there for some time now. You're welcome to Face to Face.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing good. And how are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm not managing a big place like this, so I'm surviving. How has it been like? I mean, 7 to 8 years running this. It's a Ghana Trade Fair is state company but limited liability company, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you for coming to Trade Fair Center or Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited, and let's say a hello to your valued watchers.
Hello to you.
We've been here, or I've been in this seat since 2017, so this is my 7th year.
Wow.
As CEO of the Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited.
Do you have a tenure? Do you have a term of office? Are you by your laws? Can you stay for longer periods? So you can stay longer than 8 years?
Yes.
You can break the 8, you can do
yes,
all those things?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited is a limited liability company, just like any company, just like your company. The shareholder is government, right? But the management of the company itself, there's a board of directors, a 9-member board, then management, and myself as CEO. So the board and management run the day-to-day activities. So it's not directly under government. We are IGF. That means we generate our own revenue, survive on our own revenue generation. So as far as the company is concerned, we run it just like any limited liability company under the Companies Act.
And so your source, your shareholder is just one, the government of Ghana.
We have the
you don't have private people?
We have sole shareholder of the company is government. Okay. So no private ownership inside the company.
But why don't you float shares so that maybe diversify if you like, so that government...
That's possible. That's possible. The company itself and its board of directors and even the shareholder to some extent can make those decisions when needed or when we feel it's necessary to float shares. But that's possible, just like any LLC can.
Because this is an Nkrumah thing, right? Nkrumah believed in this state enterprise kind of thing. So at the time it was a state company, and it still is a state company.
It still is.
There are people who hold the view that state companies do not thrive, they do not do well, and they could actually say that that's the reason we are where we are now. If it was a private person who owned and ran this, even if government was just a minority shareholder, it would have been better. I don't know what you think, sitting here as a CEO.
There can be an argument made for that, right? The purpose of setting up limited liability company that is owned by government, it serves a purpose, right? It creates employment. Government goals are sometimes a bit diametrically opposed to a limited liability company's goals. So I think there can be an argument made for or against it. For the Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited, because our mandate is really to support SMEs, right? Through fairs, exhibitions, I think it's better to be a state-owned. The beauty of that is that you run it as a limited liability company, but when you need the government to also come in and help or support, you have that option. When you privatize some of these mandate-driven companies, that may also not work.
So I mentioned that children used to come here for excursion, all of that, but what truly was the idea behind the creation of a trade fair in Ghana when it was created many decades ago?
Sure. Now, you know, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, industrialization really was one of his biggest drives, right? So every country, let's say, would need to focus its efforts on promoting what it makes. So made in Ghana, products that are made right here in Ghana. How do you facilitate the producer with, let's say, an international counterpart, right? It's normally through fairs and exhibitions and conventions. Every city around this world has one, right? You can name them. You go to O2 Arena, you go to Jarvis Center, you go to... It's a place where the country can say, every once in a while, let's bring auto manufacturers in. Let's bring tomato producers in. Let's bring all manner of things that we produce here in Ghana. Let's bring them into one place, showcase it, and then promote and facilitate how we export it, how we consume it here. So our focus really is that. That's what it was set up for, to facilitate trade activities through fairs, exhibitions, product launches, etc. So it's still the mandate today.
So it's called international. Does it mean that the fair is supposed to be done by foreign companies or local companies? What is the
So we
structure?
do both, right? What we do, every year we have about maybe 10 or 12 events that the company itself organizes. This year we've done about 6 or 7. International fair is one of them. So our focus in international fairs is to connect the local producer to international markets, right? So we invite embassies to come to the fair. We invite private companies who are internationally based. We invite multinational corporations to come. And then we invite SMEs to also come. So it's almost like a dialogue between our local producers and some international partners. That's one such fair or exhibition that we do. Other times we focus solely on the local producer, right? So we have events called grand sales. The local producers all around the country, we gather them in one place at trade fair, and then anyone, the general public, can come and see what we are producing here, and then you can patronize it. You can buy made in Ghana. We all know the benefits of buying made in Ghana. So it's really a way to do both, connect to our international partners, but also focus on what we do here and promote and make sure that the citizens are also participating.
So the trade fair is where we showcase what we have to the outside world, and also invite the outside world to show us what they have.
Exactly.
So is there a law that says you should do this at least so many times in a year, or how does it work like? There
is no law, meaning that a national law, but the company itself, the board of directors, every time the board changes, every time CEOs changes, CEOs can come up with their own plans. The board may approve or not approve. The board can also give advisory. But it is the company that decides what we do, how we do the trade shows. Our mandate came from the shareholder, which is government. So the mandate is trade promotion, trade facilitation through fairs and exhibitions. Okay. So that's the mandate we operate.
Let's talk about the state of the trade fair as a physical facility now. And by that, I would ask you, when was the last time you ever held a trade fair here at the La Trade Fair?
On the grounds itself?
Yes, on this ground.
I think 2020.
2020,
yes,
before COVID?
Before COVID, yes. So 2020, we held the fair here. 2021, we took the fair to Tamale, right? We move fairs around as well. So sometimes, even with the newly developed trade fair, or when it was new back in those days, you still took international fairs or grand sales fairs or whatever facilitation you are trying to do. We still take it into the region. So we've gone to Tamale, we've gone to Kumasi, we've gone elsewhere. But the last time on the grounds here, before we started developing, was in 2020.
So that's many years ago. Does that not then mean that you have not been working as a company? Because if your core mandate is to host fairs and exhibitions, and you haven't done it on your own grounds for all these years, it's a sign of failure on effectiveness.
Actually, I beg to disagree.
Yes.
Like I said, when you are facilitating, promoting trade, it doesn't require one specific space. Actually, if you limit yourself to just trade fair, you will miss your core audience all around the place. So even though the site is being renovated, and it's a massive undertaking, right? Even though it's being renovated, every single month, there is an event that promotes Made in Ghana somewhere else. Okay. Really, you can even go to, let's say, a war zone, and there's a surgery center there. Does that mean that surgery center is a failure because it's in a war zone? No. The facility,
so you take the fair to the people?
We take the fair to the people.
Okay. So but that would mean that you have to rent spaces for that, and that would come at a cost. When you already had space here, then you didn't have to pay
and
for.
Even when we are back on the site, we will still take the fair to the people, because it's not every day somebody can trek from Bolga or Paga and come to trade fair only to exhibit. When we went to Tamale, for example, it was one of the best fairs, one of the most successful fairs that we've held, and it was held outside of the grounds. We have become too used to and too accustomed to the old ways of thinking. Modern facilities must be multi-purpose, but you should also be mobile. You need to be able to spread your mandate outside of the grounds where you operate. So if we limit ourselves only to the grounds, every day, every time we do fairs, somebody has to trek from Volta, Upper, even our neighbors, right? We take international fairs across borders. We can visit Cote d'Ivoire, we can visit Nigeria. It needs to be mobile. In modern times, you need to do that. I think in the 1960s, it was okay. The population was only, 5 million? So you can bring people to Accra. Right now, there are 1 million places that you can even hold these events. So you also have to be competitive and take the fairs to
the last time I came to the trade fair was for a political party's organization. I don't know, remember which of them. It must have been the MPP somewhere in your trade fair here. And that would be probably before 2020, I think. And you have all these organizations coming in to rent your space and use it. So since you haven't held an event for more than 4 years, it means more than 4 years of no revenue that you are generating as a result of these things. Is that not a big problem?
Actually, the facility over the years had broken down, right? So when I walk in 2017, really, besides the car park for a rally, there was no indoor space or even outdoor space.
There was some story building in front of the round pavilion. It was a story building kind of structure that has a well. I don't remember what it was called.
That's the round pavilion itself that has the moat, right? But over the years, the facility had broken down to an unrecognizable place, right? We really couldn't function here. The dilapidated structures that were here were actually even dangerous to the public. To even bring that rally here before 2020, pack people into a place where the buildings are unstable, the grounds is infested with all manner of things. This current government, when I took over the site, it was such a broken down place. The company itself, the employees hadn't been paid in months, 18 months under the previous
18 months.
18 months. The day I walked in, they hadn't been paid in 18 months. There was not one building I can walk in and say, this is a place we can do events. It needed rehab. It needed urgent rehab. So the government, the board of directors, myself as CEO, we quickly came up with a plan to make sure that we turn this place around and remodel it and then turn it into a modern space where we can actually have meaningful events. So it was not only necessary, it was critical. It was quite urgent.
So that was why you had to go the redevelopment route.
Precisely.
So what was your plan with the redevelopment? It means that everything was bad, or there were a few things that were
almost
good?
Almost 100% of the site had broken down. The things that you actually saw here when I took over in 2017 didn't belong to the company. The company will maybe make an area for someone to come and put a business. The only business here paying rent were maybe 2 businesses. They had stopped paying the rent to the government agency that is running the place. So it was unattainable. You understand?
Really?
Absolutely.
But there were shops here. There
were shops here.
There were people exhibiting. Those didn't belong to the street fair?
It didn't belong to the street fair.
So they were renting?
They were renting the bare space and they were in arrears.
Oh, so they rent the
bare
land?
space and come and put their kiosks on it. Or come and put... So the buildings, maybe 1 or 2, may have been from Nkrumah's time that were broken down. But the rest of it were people who came to rent the space. But when I walked in, it was really...
So you didn't have the structure for people to rent? You just had bare ground. People would bring their own structures?
Their own structures onto the site.
Let me take a break. When Agnes Edu Doctor came to be CEO, there was a wave of demolition exercises of property that belonged to other people who were doing business here. Some of them, I think, went to the law courts and so on. I'll find out what the state of that is. And also, you have come to destroy what was there, saying that it was not good. So many years on, we still don't have a trade fair. Why? Hearing you talk about trade fair, you make it sound as if before you came, there was nobody running nothing, that the company was run aground. Help me make sense of that.
Yes, it's exactly what you have said. Before 2017, I explained exactly what existed here. The previous administration had a CEO sitting here. There was staff here. There were tenants, right, who came in, rented space with a tenancy agreement that spelled out exactly what you do. You pay rent for a year, then you renew. If the company decides to renew, you renew. If not, you go. That system had broken down for many years, right? You don't have electricity coming into the place because the tenant has decided he's not going to pay you rent.
So there was no electricity?
Exactly, because the tenant uses the electricity and doesn't pay for it, right? So it came to a point where the so-called tenant that your revenue depends on, he is delinquent or she is delinquent. So the system has broken down. So what I came to meet and had to fix immediately was return to the commercial model that the company was built on, which is you lease space or you lease a building or you lease a room, whatever it is, your revenue is coming from that tenant. So when that tenant becomes delinquent and your business cannot run, that tenant ought to be evicted. So I came in to actually clean up that system and return the company to basics, right? What is our core mandate? What is the commercial value that we need to unearth? And then where do we take the center?
But you need those tenants, or you needed those tenants.
You need good paying tenants, not delinquent tenants. The people that were evicted or where I came to meet them, they were all delinquent tenants.
Where delinquent meant in practical terms, what were they not doing?
Okay, so you come in, your rent is 50 pesos per square meter. That's problem number one.
50 pesos
50 pesos per square meter.
And a typical space would be how many square meters?
It would be about 1,000 square meters, maybe
So-
500
so
square
times
meters.
50 pesos.
Precisely. And that
Per month or per year?
per month.
Okay.
And that tenant hasn't paid rent in 3 years. Prior
They
to
defaulted.
They defaulted prior to me coming in, right? So what I came to meet, it was an urgent situation where every delinquent tenant had to be managed, and if you cannot catch up, your landlord, the trade fair, will make sure that we evicted.
So they were in debt and they were not paying.
Precisely.
And were there attempts to get them to pay?
Many, but not vigorous enough,
Not
right?
vigorous. Could it be that they were not making enough to pay back? Could it be that the trade fair as we knew it at the time was not earning them enough to be able to pay?
They don't work for trade fair.
Yeah, they work at trade fair. That's what I
They
meant.
don't work for trade fair. Trade fair is a limited liability company, just like your company. So if somebody comes to you, you own a 10-story office block. Somebody comes into that situation and rents your office block. You are not responsible for his business within your office block.
Yeah, but there's a view around, so when we talk about government, they say government should not be in the business of doing business, but rather provide the good.
This is not government.
Yeah, but so consider you the landlord as the institution that's supposed to create the enabling environment.
Again,
perhaps you're not. That's why you're going on
this
benefit.
is not government, right? This is a limited liability company. I think oftentimes where we go wrong is that we blend the two. We conflate the two. We don't give the impetus to the limited liability company to be able to operate. So you want a limited liability IGF company that is supposed to collect rent as revenue. You want the government to now support that business who has come on the ground. He, that business, she, that business, is supposed to be the revenue that the government agency is collecting. Once you take him off the hook, you have created a system where now the system has broken down, the revenue is not coming in, but yet you want services, right? We need to get back to basics. If you are a tenant, there are covenants, there is rent, you pay that and the system revolves itself. Your rent is what's going to allow the trade fair to sweep the grounds. Your rent is allowing the trade fair to drain the site when it rains. Your rent is allowing the trade fair to pay and maintain the street lights.
And yet
So
you're not paying that rent.
if you're not paying that rent, The system has broken
But you
down,
see,
which is what I came to inherit.
So you refer to them as delinquents, which means irresponsible tenants. But
delinquent, it doesn't mean irresponsible. It means you've chosen not to pay your rent.
Yes, so that's irresponsibility to an extent.
I think I want to make sure that that's your
very well. So
in a business, in a commercial agreement, we don't care about responsible or you're not responsible. You have a rent to meet,
and so you should
meet it, and so you should meet it.
The argument that was put forward at the time was that these people you refer to as delinquents, tenants, were actually members of a political party that your government did not belong to, and that you were witch hunting them politically, and that's what you did. What do you say to that?
And of course, what did you want him to say? That he's delinquent and that's why he's evicted? The company evicted delinquent tenants. Now, that argument will hold true if today you came here and there's people in this government that are supportive to this government are still here. And then the people who are in the opposition government are gone, right? No one is left here.
So did you pack everybody out?
Every single human being.
Does it mean there wasn't one tenant who was doing what they had to do?
Not one.
All of them?
Every single one.
But they were the ones who were keeping the place alive.
Now, the company, let me go back a little bit. The company and its board of directors decided that the site needs to be redeveloped. And I want to emphasize this, right? There were no credible facilities, modern facilities that you can actually hold a convention of, let's say, 500 pharmacists, right? Okay. There was none. There was a shed, maybe 2 sheds, open on both sides. When it rains, it's coming inside. It's a mess. So the company decided that it needs to be overhauled, right? There's not one single building that a convention can take place. So all the 1967 buildings that have broken down, it had already been broken down. What was here was actually individual people have put up block, have put up container businesses, things like that. All that needed to be cleared. And then a new master plan has been put in place, which we are rigorously implementing.
I'll ask you to explain the master plan, but let's still remain on the eviction. Why did you go the demolition approach? I remember the Raymond Archer case vividly.
Right. It's not the demolition.
Where you came overnight and just pulled down their property that they had
put up. That
was what the claim was.
Let me correct you. It wasn't overnight. I'm going to take you painstakingly through the process. I came in 2017 and the company gave. Now, when you say you, I mean the company. I don't take decisions as CEO.
Yes, on my own. You is corporate exactly. You, not you so person.
The company decided that the master plan is going to be built. Now, we need to give notice by law 6 months to the tenant. If your landlord wants to redevelop their site, they are allowed to. Whether your business is good or bad, it doesn't matter. If your landlord wants to redevelop, which it was urgent, we give you 6-month notification. So that 6-month notification went out in 2017, at the end of 2017, right? If you ignore that notification, your landlord has every right to evict you. So that notification was given in 2017. And finally, demolition of the entire site was actually done in 2020.
So 3 years?
3 years, solid.
So they were recalcitrant. Did you tell them that pack your things out because we are coming for it?
Letters after letters.
And they ignored you?
And they ignored all of it. All of it.
But did bringing a bulldozer to pull the thing down, was that the last option? Could you not have removed their properties for them?
Again, you want to bring expenses onto the government company instead of holding responsible the person who is recalcitrant, who is delinquent, and refusing to obey the rules of his covenants.
You could have seized those assets, maybe.
We can, but in the agreement that they came, it told you clearly that whatever you leave here will be subject to demolition, because the master plan, every successive government since Nkrumah, and even Nkrumah, Osadifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, had a master plan. When we were doing the background research for the project, we saw that there was a master plan that he wanted to build. Even he couldn't finish it. And every successive government has attempted to redevelop it. It is only this government, only this board of directors, only this CEO, and only this management has been able to pull it off. And you needed to make sure that you have a plan in place and that you execute the plan so that we can all enjoy a modern.
Do you have any of
convention
these
center.
cases currently before the court? The Raymond Archer one, for instance, is it in court? Do you have any case?
It has exhausted itself.
So-
All the appeals has exhausted itself. All the injunctions have been.
You have no
moved.
legal headache currently?
No.
This is Face to Face on ChannelOne Television. My guest is the CEO of the Ghana Trade Fair, or International Trade Fair Center in Ghana, Dr. Agnes Edu. My name is Sanda. Please stay with us. Yeah, welcome back. This is Face to Face on ChannelOne Television. My name is Sanda. My guest is Dr. Agnes Edu. She is the CEO of the Ghana International Trade Fair Center. And we actually had a makeshift camp that they've created on site for this particular interview because, like I said to you when we came here, the whole place, well, is in a construction setting or in a construction zone. So talk to us about this, your redevelopment agenda. What exactly are you doing with the trade fair?
All right. So I think I mentioned earlier that when you are about to reconstruct a modern facility, any modern facility, it requires a lot of planning. The biggest challenge is what we've discussed, trying to move people out of the way so that the master plan can be implemented. And it took a while. It took almost 3 years to try to go through the courts and resistance. Now we got to a point by 2020 where we drew up a master plan, took it to cabinet, approved it, and the board of directors approved it. What we are building here is our core facilities. Our mandate is trade promotion and trade facilitation through fairs and exhibitions. So we are building the major convention center in Ghana. It sits on about 20,000 square meters of indoor space, properly serviced, indoor, air conditioned, just like you see O2 Arena will have, or you see Javits Center in New York will have. When you come to Accra, there will be such a convention center here.
So you mentioned 20,000, but give us the practical picture. How many, what's the seating capacity, for instance? Maybe compared to National Theatre or Conference Center. Use that as...
Okay. So the building itself sits on 20,000 square meters, the building footprint. The exhibition hall, the convention center floor, measures 10,000 square meters. So we used maybe conservative estimates that if you want to do, let's say, a huge concert, standing room only, you can use maybe from 4 to 6 people per square meter. We conservatively used about 3 people per square meter. So you can push up to about 30,000 people in a standing room only. Okay. You can seat maybe about 15,000, maybe 20,000 people with tables, chairs. So it depends on how you want to shape the space.
So you're doing an open place where you can put mount stands and do an exhibition. Is that the... It's not a place where you have seats for people to sit down, like a conference center kind of thing.
It's a multi-purpose modern facility. Back in 1960s, 1970s, you fixed chairs into the floor. You can never move them again. So forever you can only have seated events there. That's not what we are building here. We are building a multi-purpose, multifunctional halls, right? So exhibition floors, you go to New York, the Javits Center, it's open exhibition floor. You set up 1,000 people in a convention and an exhibition. When you're done, you pack it all up. We have storage spaces. Then you set up the next event of, let's say, a seated wedding. Then you take it up and you set up, let's say, stadium seating. So we'll have all those options. It depends on the event that you want to come and rent the space to do. The lobby will be a proper lobby. The lobby measures about 5,000 square meters or so. So if you have 10,000 people in the exhibition hall, they can move around freely and enjoy the space even before they go into the convention. You have a restaurant in the lobby. You can find something to eat before you go into your exhibition or your event. We have gift shop that will be all made in Ghana products. It will be in the lobby. Forex bureau, things like that. When you go into these exhibitions, you need some amenities. We will make sure that those amenities are in the lobby space. We have a back house that is storage. So everything that you take out of the convention floor has its place that it can go and get out of the way for the next event. The exhibition hall itself, or the convention hall itself, is built in a way that is flat, and then you ride into it, or you bring your car show into it. You bring your exhibition wares into it, and then you drive back out. So it's quite a modern, multi-purpose convention center.
I see. So the convention center is going to be the main thing, or there are
Yes.
other side things alongside?
Right. So when you go to convention center, we are developing a master plan, right? So the convention center doesn't sit in a vacuum. You need to be able to sleep there, eat there, shop there, leisure there. Now, when you come to a convention, 3 days, there's a hotel you can stay. So we will partner with...
You are building a hotel? Or
absolutely. It will be partnership with the private sector,
okay.
right? And then there will be a hotel on site. There's a place you can go shopping, so there will be a mall on site. We are building our own made in Ghana pavilion. So there, you can rent space. Let's say you want an office, you can rent space. Let's say the previous tenant who can now become a responsible tenant can come back and rent space. We will develop that area for that. And then we are partnering with the private sector to do a data center. Part of the conversation in Africa and in Ghana, sometimes we are left out of the technology infrastructure. This time we decided that we want to address some of those. So a data center developer is on board. So convention, hotel, a retail space, amusement space, there's data center here. And now the Africa Continental Free Trade, right? Ghana is its headquarters. So that permanent headquarters of AFTA will also be located on site. So
okay, I bring AFTA here.
Absolutely,
okay,
absolutely.
Creating space for them.
We've created space for them already. So they will come and build their AFTA headquarters, the whole facility that supports them. They will be on site with us.
I see that you have something here. I don't know if you could just... So this is a sketch that you plan?
Yes. So the master plan is actually a multi-purpose mixed-use space. So from one end, this is the northern end, all the way to the southern end, we will develop it as one cohesive space. So our convention center is in this area here.
Okay.
What we are building right now is the exhibition, convention and exhibition centers here. So after that, when you are done, you can just basically walk across the street and go into your hotel. So the hotel spot is here. You can now walk around, and the top of this master plan will have the mall right there. The data center I mentioned will go somewhere in here. After Secretariat that I mentioned will come somewhere in here. So all the arms of the master plan fit together. They relate to each other, and it's also functional. You need to sleep after your convention. The hotel will be right there for you.
Now, considering that you've already told me you don't need a physical space here for you to do your exhibitions, what happens to this place and when you still have to carry your exhibitions outside Accra?
We do. Even when we were, the fair that we took to Tamale, for example, it is a fair that that year we had multiple events on site, right, in the old broken down facilities, but we still took the fair outside of Accra. So this convention center is really not going to be only for our activities. It's also for anyone can come and rent the space. And so while we move fairs around, the site will still be servicing other private events.
So when did you start construction of this, your grand plan?
Okay, so we actually, I want to talk about challenges that massive undertakings like this take.
Okay.
We actually started construction in 2020.
Okay.
In the month of March, we moved some developers on site to put the infrastructure in. The way we've designed the site is that Trade Fair has put in the roads, the power, the drains. We've addressed all that. Today, in 2024, we finished that work. But back in 2020, right before we were about to start, lockdown comes, right? That's an unknown. Who knew that a virus was going to come and stop the whole world? So for 2 years, you can't move, you can't work. So then we come back, and in 2022, maybe 2023, we started the infrastructure on site. So now we've completed all the infrastructure on site, and now we are building the convention and exhibition center. So we started in earnest. We started really in 2020. We had a little break from 2020 to 2022-ish, and then we've come back on site to finish the work. Yeah.
This elaborate thing that you've talked about should come at a huge cost. So what is the cost of this redevelopment? Who is footing the bill? Who are the people behind the construction at all?
Okay. So the master plan was laid out as a serviced lot approach, right? That means that the company puts in the services. We engage a developer to come in and put in the services. The services mean the roads, the drains, the power, the water, fiber infrastructure that serves the plots to all these hotels and other developers.
So you are behaving like what estate developers call service plots
Precisely.
for sale. So you do the service
not
plots.
for sale.
I know, but you do them and someone develops them. Not
there
for sale, but
exactly,
for...
Exactly. Because we, the company, doesn't sell the hotel. We have a developer that we've partnered with. The company has partnered with to build the hotel and run the hotel as a private project.
So you bring utilities, you bring roads.
Precisely.
Then someone comes and says, okay, I want 5,000 square feet to do A, B, C, D.
Someone comes and the company tells you, we are building this master plan. So whatever you want to build that doesn't fit in the master plan cannot be done here. This is only the approved master plan that we have put together as, let's say, cabinet approved, the board has approved, and the management is...
So take your piece. Which piece do you think you
Precisely.
can... And
which
then you
piece,
do.
Exactly.
And what will be the arrangement between you and that person?
Right.
Is it build, operate, transfer? How is it going to be like?
Build, operate, transfers don't work.
Okay.
And I'll explain why. When somebody comes and builds something, they operate for 5 years, 10 years, they make money out of it. And then they exit and hand you a used facility. You now have to revamp and then run or get another developer.
So you're not going that route?
We're not going that route. Right now, as we stand today, the developer comes in, the investor developer group comes in, Trade Fair Company, we are the landlord. The government has implemented or transferred the land from Lands Commission to the company to be able to develop it. So when you come in, you partner with us. Either we can lease you space, sure. No one is going to own any land here. We lease it to you, and so long-term leases, or we also can invest the land and take equity out of it. We can also look at other arrangements that developers come on board, but it has to benefit both. It has to be a commercial agreement that benefits the company and also benefits the
So for instance, the one doing the hotel or the convention center, what would be the agreement? Would it be a 50-50 thing, or because of your equity you say, okay, you are 40, so would it be minority? How can
Precisely. So it depends on the size of the lot, right? Our equity is the land that we have serviced and we are developing. So if it works out to be 50-50, depends on what you are putting on, your investment is, then that's what it is. If it works out to be, let's say the hotel, you are only needing 3 acres. It's not going to be 50-50 because 3 acres of land is definitely not going to be 50% of the entire cost. So each individual lot and what we are developing on will depend on what your equity stake will be.
But what is your monetary contribution in terms of investment? So if I asked you as Trade Fair, aside the equity, which is the land, is there money that you're putting in the capital injection?
The beauty of this redevelopment is that it requires no cash from the Trade Fair Company or from government. So we really are engaging capable developers.
So we're not putting any money in there, strictly apart from the development of the site.
Precisely. So if you come in and you are looking for government to write you a check, you are not a serious developer that we can deal with, right? So all the developers that are here, the developer that have done all the infrastructure and everything I've talked about, as of today, in November of 2024, we have completed.
Regardless, there would be a total estimated cost of redevelopment, which is a working figure. Do you have that figure readily available?
It cannot be in this because we, the Ghana Trade Fair Company, did not go to a bank to borrow money. So you don't need to do feasibility for everything that is coming in. So there is not one figure I can tell you I need to go develop because each developer is raising their own cash or equity. They are raising their own. So the feasibility will be done in stages. In stages meaning that when the hotel is coming in, he or she does his own feasibility. When the data center is coming, you do your own feasibility and make sure that that arrangement or that project is going to be viable.
From the way I see it, you appear to be relying on hope that someone would come and make an offer and that person will go ahead and execute.
Let me even come in before you finish. There's no hope. The developers are here. They are actually developing.
For all this.
Everything I've told you about. The hotel developer is on site. The mall developer is on site. You know, when you get out of the government mentality, what you seem to be suggesting, if government doesn't write a check, it cannot happen. Let me tell you, we need to develop this country working with the private
So these people have found it viable to invest?
Viable to invest. We've put not only viable to invest, but they are actually building. The roads have been built. The exhibition hall is now up. The hotel developer is moving on site December, January. The mall developer is moving on site. After Secretariat is moving on site. And the data center, they are also moving on site. That's phase one. Phase one is filled, right? Right now, the developers that have been moved here is the 2 or 3 buildings that are office blocks. That's who have been moved in here. But we have executed this master plan to perfection, and the developers are here, and they are putting in the master plan as we've planned.
Is your redevelopment not rather too slow? Because since 2017 you said you were going to do this. It's taking like forever.
Right. So let me break it down. The reason you feel is slow, or it seems is slow, is because of all the impediments and challenges that are in the way of the redevelopment. Let me start by where we started from. You take 3 years for a delinquent tenant to move. You've already wasted your 3 years, and it has nothing to do with the project. It has to do with the fact of somebody saying, I don't want to get out of the way. Then you claim your site. Now investors have moved in. Now the developers have moved in. Then COVID catches you at the top of 2020. Now you have 2 years where planes don't move. Now let that sink in for a moment. Planes don't move. Countries are locked down. Spain, one of our partners, was under lockdown until 2022. From 2020. That's 3 whole years, right? So now those unknown unknowns, even the known knowns, are things that are in your way. So it seems slow because these massive projects, they will usually hit some stumbling blocks along the way. And the 2 major ones that ate up about 5 years of this project was delinquent tenants, recalcitrant tenants not wanting to move out of the way, and COVID. And so really, this project started about 2 years ago, which is about end of 2022, beginning of 2023. All this work we've done happened in those 2 years.
You see, the reason I asked you about the slow nature is that you are part of a government which has done something else again in this same area, where there was a general hospital which the government said was defective, like you said the trade fair was, and pulled it to ground zero, and it has remained as ground zero for a long time. Have you not been overly ambitious in this your trade fair redevelopment, where you should have waited till you got everything set before you did the demolition? Because people would say, okay, you said that the trade fair was not good, blah, blah, blah. We had a trade fair. Now we don't. We just have
actually,
a dugout
you didn't have a trade fair.
We did. We saw something physically. Now we don't even have that. We only have...
You didn't. And this is not even up for debate. What you had was, like I said, makeshift kiosks of people running their private businesses. That's what was here. There was not a convention center sitting here. There was not facilities sitting here that you can do any meaningful trade facilitation in. The thing with projects of this nature is that it requires planning. No investor, let me give you an example. You want to build a house. You found the plot you want to build your house in. You go there and the landlord says, I have these kiosks, they won't move out of my way, but bring your investment. When they are ready and they move out, I'll let you come build your house. Please, what will be your answer?
I will not answer because I'm not the CEO of the trade fair.
No, it's not the trade fair. I'm asking you.
I know, but it's connected to this. So
you want to build your house.
No, so you have decided, let me remove the kiosk first.
No,
and then
that's not even what I'm saying. Investors, they want to walk into a situation where your land is ready.
There's no litigation.
There's no litigation, free and clear, this and that. That took 3 years, right? So the slow nature that it looks like it's slow is because at times you can't even move if you want to. And at times, if you leave those kiosks the way you are saying I should, no investor will walk in and invest their money.
Were there issues of compensation to any of the traders? Have you paid up all compensations?
There is no compensation to delinquent tenants. Okay. You come in with a tenancy agreement all your covenants are spelled out. When you are leaving, there is no such thing.
So you didn't have to pay any compensation whatsoever?
Not to the tenants who are here. But, you know, government acquisitions and things, that has compensation. That is government. That
have you solved all those issues?
That is a government issue. I don't think I can address at company level.
Okay. So but at company level, there's no compensation that you ought to pay. So you have no issues there.
Exactly.
Very well. This is Face-to-Face on Channel One Television. My name is Umaru Sandamadu. My guest is the CEO of the Trade Fair Company, and we've been walking through memory lane, what they have done so far. When we come back, the issue of encroachment, how are they dealing with that? There's a publication by Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. I'll ask you to respond to that about encroachment. Not encroachment, that the Trade Fair is selling off lands. What exactly is that situation? Please stay with us. You're welcome back. This is Face-to-Face on Channel One Television. Madam CEO, so while you're doing all this work here, Trade Fair as we knew it is not really operating. You had workers here, staff. You're operating from a makeshift camp that you have done, like what happens on sites, which is a small office you're running. What happened to all your workers? Are they still being paid?
Trade Fair is a company limited. We have workers here, staff here, from accounts office to operations manager. The company hasn't changed. We are still operating.
But what are they doing?
We manage fairs. We take fairs to Tamale. We take fairs to Kumasi. We take fairs around Accra. So we are still managing our mandate. So nothing has changed in the company.
Interesting. So you still have people coming to work, but there's not even a working space.
We actually have. You are only in one room, right? Okay. We actually have staff offices that we've left up. That will also become part of the new space, but there's staff offices on site.
No. Before I ask you
we
about,
will build our new staff offices as part of the convention center that you see behind me on site now. That has been constructed.
Before I ask you what the way forward, there are two stories that I just want you to respond to. The Northern Member of Parliament, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, has revealed that 11 acres of land belonging to your company has been taken over by a private developer, and that he has started building on the land. Is that true?
I'm not aware of anything that the Member of Parliament has said, so I cannot comment on that. No, so I'm not aware of it.
So 11 acres of your land has not been taken?
Sanda, I don't even know what the Member of Parliament is saying, so I can't verify what he's saying. I've explained to you in detail what this master plan is about.
Yeah, but there's no private developer has taken your land?
Let me finish. I've explained to you in details how the master plan has been approved to partner with private sector to develop it. That's exactly what we're doing, according to the approval of cabinet.
So it's possible that this is part of your plan to give the land to someone to develop for
what the MP has said, right? Unless he comes in here and shows me what he's talking about, I'm not going to address speculations that has nothing to do what I've painstakingly explained to you in this.
Another story that came recently, well, a number of months now, the Fantasy Dome thing. Is it your property? Was it your land? What's your involvement as Trade Fair?
As I've stated in the beginning, everyone here is a tenant. When your term came to an end, the company gave you notice and moved you. And that's what we've done with every tenant here.
The CEO said he had secured an injunction. You disregarded the injunction and still did the demolition.
Sanda, let me tell you, the Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited has not been served with any court processes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the demolition was the best way out? That's a question I would ask, because looking at it on the video, the bulldozers coming in,
Sanda,
it looks like...
I'm going to even stop you there. You are still advocating that the responsibility of a private business should fall on government companies. I think that that's not the right way to go. When you come in as a tenant, there are covenants. When you respect that covenant, there's no problem. But when you don't respect the covenant, then the company takes steps to make sure that we can evict a recalcitrant tenant. And that's exactly what we've done.
Okay. I'm glad you said you and the Africa Free Trade area, you are talking, you're going to even host them here. I don't know if there's also any involvement and relationship with the free zones area. Is there any relationship with Trade Fair in that regard?
We are not directly engaging the free zones area, but I'm sure the Africa Continental Free Trade, that whole framework probably has free zone components in it. But trade fair directly is not
Okay.
engaged.
Let's talk about the future of the trade fair now. When do you hope to finish this beautiful design you
So
have here?
this is what I actually want to focus on, right? I want to focus on the benefit of what we are doing here. If I get nothing across to the general public today, I want the public to understand the benefit of what we are doing here. A lot of these sidetrack things that we've discussed is really challenges that the company needed to manage, which we've managed very carefully, and we are at the point of development. Some of the stuff we are talking about happened in 2017. I want to focus on today, 2024.
You want to
what
move
we've
forward?
done. Yes, what we've done and the benefit that this country is going to see going forward. We've put together a master plan that is building a 20,000 square meters of convention and exhibition centers. Never happened before, right? You will be able to do all manner of events, whether you want to have a wedding here or whether you want to have the West Africa Auto Show here, whether you want to have a convention of medical experts coming in and making sure that we are developing the country. That's what we are doing here. We've flawlessly executed this. We've put in the infrastructure. We are partnering with private sector developers. Without the private sector coming in to join this effort, you cannot develop a cohesive trade fair. When it's all said and done, this will be a gathering place, just like you remember it, right? But in modern times, right? When you come into conventions of modern times, we travel and we are in awe of what other people are doing. Nobody's building a kiosk in the way of the O2 Arena. And that's what we are doing here. If we have to package it in a way that makes sense for the future, right? The next 10 years, the next 20 years, the next 15 years, as the population is growing, we've addressed all that. And now we hope that in the next, let's say 3, 5, 6 years, when this whole place is developed, that you, your children, our children's children will get to enjoy a beautiful space, a functional space, but one that fosters and facilitate and promote trade within.
So this first phase, when do you, based on your working plan of action, when will this thing be open for us to say, oh look, this is a beautiful?
We set 3 to 5 year timelines every time we stop and go. Right, 2017 we had a 3 to 5 years timeline, but when you can't move your equipment because you are afraid that the bulldozer will touch the fantasy dome tent, it wastes your time for 3 years, right? So after that, we set another 2 to 3 year timeline. So every challenge that comes will upset that timeline a little bit. So coming back to present, from 2023, we set another 3 to 5 year timeline. The convention center that we are actually constructing right now, we think we will be able to open it maybe in the next 6 months or so. I think we are
by February, March, June?
We are sitting in November. 6 months from now will be May, June or so. By then, we will be able to do events in a properly constructed convention center.
After June?
After June, exactly. Now, sometimes you even want a situation where as you are building, you are even using the site, like the outdoor spaces, things like that. So even before June, if we can, sure, we will open it where outdoor spaces can be used. Every step of the way, we are going to make sure that the public is safe here and the public can come and enjoy the spaces that we are creating here. So the convention center will be ready maybe in the next, like I say, 6 months or so. And then the private sector developers will also move in and also start developing the private sector component.
So you've done a lot of demolition here, but I noticed there are 2 blocks still standing in the middle of the compound. That should be the round pavilion. What's the plan with that? Is it going to also go down? Or is part of this grand plan?
As part of the master plan, we put the round pavilion as part of the new way going forward. The round pavilion was built back in 1967. It's still quite a solid structure. Everything that was demolished here was an unsafe structure. And I want the public to understand that when you have a building that LADMA didn't give you permit to build, we cannot allow people to stay in. You understand? The round pavilion was a structured part of Nkrumah's master plan, and it's solid, and we are keeping it on site as a legacy building on site. And so that one will stay, and then we will renovate it. We have many partners that are interested in renovating it with us. Many governments, many local that are interested in managing that with us. So that will stay, and then we will build around it.
Dr. Agnes Edu, CEO, Ghana Trade Fair Company, thank you so much for joining us on Face to Face.
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
We wish you all the best. My name is
you.
Sanda. This has been Face to Face on Channel One Television. Thank you for watching us.